Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning. Welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. Sometimes the internet does things that just makes you laugh, and today that was Montrose FC. Montrose FC, whoever does their social media needs a pay rise. I'm going to get it up on the screen because it has to be one of the best ever social medias. I mean, even Celtic should have a look at it. I mean, every social media manager out there needs to just go and get a bit of a reality check sometimes. And let's face it, Montrose wins it all day long. Montrose FC full time here, 2-2 away to get pissed. If you're wanting, oh man, and the only reason I'm saying it because it cheered me up on a Sunday morning, and let's face it, we'll need a little bit of cheering up this Sunday morning. Ange Postecoglou says, "Do not get used to your stars." It's a quote by Ange at the time where he was leaving Celtic, and he said that, and you know, a lot of these players are going to believe in Celtic. When you see the team that was put out yesterday, are Celtic being shortchanged? Are we getting value for money as fans? That's the question, because Celtic have brought out, before the end of last season, they brought out this season's strip. Over the course of the summer, they've brought out several merchandise sets, and several sets that will see them make hundreds of thousands of pounds. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. Just seeing why that's doing that. And they've then brought out another strip. They brought out an Ireland strip, and it's just constant, isn't it? It is just constant. And Celtic, are they given? Yeah, who's the 11%? Tell us in the comments why. Is your internet okay? Karen? Yeah. Mine's isn't, it's freezing. So yeah, who's the 4%, says Stephen. It's up to 11% now. If you think that Celtic are giving you value for money, tell us why in the comments. We've seen a story this morning. Brendan Rodgers reveals the financial sacrifice that Kieran made to seal a return to Celtic. That's one that was put up by, well, it's obviously the manager talking to the media yesterday and trying to get a bit of news. Is it a bit of deflection type news? I mean, tell me what you think. And it's a headline that's going to get people talking, that's for sure. Brendan Rodgers reveals that the sacrifice that Kieran Tierney made to seal Celtic return. More than 6 years after his final game away to Aberdeen, Tierney made his second debut in Lisbon. Whilst we all love the fact that Kieran Tierney's back, he was brought back on a freedom of contract, and we got him back for absolutely nada. We've not spent any money really this window. When we look at players that have left over the last, say, 12-month period, we lost Matt O'Reilly for 25 million. We lost Kyogo Furiashi for 10 million. We've just lost Nico Kuhn for 16, 17 million. It's the best part of 50 million on players. And yes, they were bought in on the cheap. Matt O'Reilly cost 1.5 million. Right, you've got to look at it both ways. Matt O'Reilly cost 1.5 million, Kyogo cost a couple of million, and Nico Kuhn cost something like 3 million. And you could say, do you know what, we're getting exactly, the club hasn't changed anything, but there seems to be an awful lot of fans this summer, not happy with the way that the transfers have went so far. Now that's led to us being linked with a Manchester United defender. Been linked with a Manchester United defender who plays at left back. I don't think that we'll go for him because there's no way on earth, or maybe there is. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong, and if this does happen, it's going to be a drop mic moment for Brendan Rodgers and the board, because if Celtic go out and spend 3.2 million on a Manchester United left back that spent the second half of the season on loan to PSV Eindhoven, although he only made 12 appearances for them, they turned down the chance to sign him on a permanent basis. Will Celtic go out and spend 3.2 million on backup to Kieran Tierney? Now, Brendan Rodgers, talking about Kieran Tierney, Brendan Rodgers has said that, you know, whilst we all love the fact that Kieran has pulled the hoops back on, and the makeshift defence that we had yesterday with, let's just get the makeshift defence up, because let's face it, it was a makeshift defence. Donovan, McPherson, they're not going to be near the first team when it comes to the real business end of this when the season starts. Trusty and Tierney are the only two that are definite starters. Trusty will fight it out for Liam Scales. And then you've got Cameron Carter-Vickers. But Celtic it has been said that Celtic are trying to get in players in that department. They're trying to get in a left back. Often Trusty said that he's not scared of competition. He's unfazed by competition, anyone coming into the club. He cost us £6 million on the deadline day last summer. Now, whilst we are all getting all excited, but then people will say, yeah, was that a panic buy? Last day in the transfer window, was Austin Trusty a panic buy to get in, or was it the fact that they've been watching Trusty all during the transfer window? You move up the ranks, there's always going to be competition, Austin Trusty says. He says, whoever is playing, whoever they bring in, you have to trust and have faith in yourself. Reflecting on his first full year at Celtic Park, Trusty says, I felt it went extremely well. I was unfortunate at times with injuries and bad timing. Well, was that your bad timing on the park? Some would say yes. Or was the injuries a bad time? Overall, he felt that it was an extremely good year for him, and not the tyres. He was extremely proud of it. He's excited for the coming season. But I look back on my first year and I'm extremely positive. Are you extremely positive with Austin Trusty in the team? We're getting ripped by the board by not spending this window. I think that we can win the league without buying. It's an interesting one. The only time Celtic spent straight away the season was when Lawwell wasn't there. Here's a mic drop moment. The club dropped 35 million in 2 windows, and the fans slag those 3 players in 1 window. They can't win. Why should they try? Stop moaning when they spend big, says Big Rab. I don't think they were moaning when we spend big. I think it's all about timing. I mean, you could re-quote Brendan Rodgers himself, and do you know, I think Brendan Rodgers forgets what he says during the season and towards the end of the season about getting players in for pre-season. These are all Brendan Rodgers words that can come back to haunt him. You know, he's spoken about getting players in so they get a good pre-season. That's Brendan Rodgers' own words. We're not making stuff up. You know, so there has to be a certain point within the window, which I would say was this week. I would say that the point in the window where the point of no return, as Brendan Rodgers might put it, is this week, when you want to get players in for them to then get that pre-season. With the games that's remaining, it is just, I mean, Brendan Rodgers also said that, look, that some of the players that played 45 minutes yesterday are 10 days behind other players. But that's what happens when you pick and you buy international players. We can't bemoan the fact that players go away on international duty, Brendan, because that's the calibre of player that you want. Now, when you bring in Lewis Palmer, when you bring in other players that you may not deem good enough, but they're on international duty, there's not a lot we can do about it. Alistair Johnson, top class player, on international duty well into July. You know, that you can't bemoan that situation. He's not bemoaning the fact that Alistair Johnston's not here, but he is saying, he's pointing out that some of the players that played yesterday are 10 days behind other players. Now, if that's the case, this is the week where they play catch-up. This is the week where you bring in new players to then make sure that they get the pre-season under Brendan Rodgers and under Celtic. So I just think it's interesting what's been said and whether the fact that we're currently getting value for money, because I don't think that as a fan we are. With the amount of merchandise that's came out, the amount of new tops, the season ticket costs, you know, and everything like that, and then Celtic then go and give us a game at home, when it used to always be on your season book that you would get one pre-season friendly for I can remember a time you would get a pre-season friendly on your season book and you would get a European qualifier. We now get none of those on your season book. Every game's a paid game. You know, you get nothing back. The only benefit of this is going to wind a lot of people up, but the only benefit of buying a season ticket and maintaining your season ticket is so that you're guaranteed your tickets for the big games. And then if you want to miss the odd Saturday, Sunday because you're away out shopping with the missus, it's alright, the season ticket's in my back pocket, I'll be there next week. Now that's where the real rage comes in with fans. Half the boards still have their communion money. No, they don't, because they're not Catholic. But the half that are, well, they probably do. Anyway, will Celtic go for a Man United player? Nope. I have been linked with a Portuguese under 21. Brendan Rodgers says that he is happy with the transfer windows going. He said that he knows that we do need backup, but he spent a lot of time yesterday speaking to the media saying, oh look, the guys that came in this week are behind physically. Do you buy that in the modern day? Because players are told when they go on their 4-week holiday that they've got a training schedule that they must adhere to. Do you know, it's not like it's not like back in the 80s and 90s where it's like, that's it, season's finished, straight on the bevy, you know, straight on the pints, and then you're away sitting in Ibiza for 4 weeks getting bevied up and going to nightclubs till 5 and 6 and 7 in the morning, you know, rocking in. Echoed out your box. Those days are gone. Football players are professional. They're all year round professionals. You know, they've got to maintain a level of fitness. For Brendan Rodgers to come back and say, look, they're 10 sessions behind, they're behind physically. Top players in the world, even when they go off on their holidays, they're still maintaining their fitness. You know, they still walk back into training and it's as if they've just finished the end of the season. But anyway, according to the stuff that's coming out, we all know that Kieran Tierney did turn down offers, but this is saying that Tierney turned down the likes of Juventus, Bayer Leverkusen, Sevilla. Yeah, they did turn down a move. He did turn down a move to Spain because it was in the Spanish media. In isolation, Kieran coming back is brilliant for the team, says Brendan Rodgers. Make no doubt about it, Kieran has sacrificed to come back here in a financial way because he really wanted to come back. But you have to put that as a player of quality and experience that he now has is going to be really big for us. It then goes on to say that, look, we are looking to bring in a left back. Kieran will not, that's the big one, Kieran will not be expected to play every single game for Celtic this season. So we're going to pick and choose the games. Obviously, he's not going to play on those stupid plastic pitches that have invaded the park, the SPFL again this year, and I think that lets the SPFL down. Brendan Rodgers goes on about the fact that he spoke to Kieran Tierney during the summer again before he came back to Celtic, as well as he did Callum McGregor in Mallorca. He likes his wee catch-ups during the summer in Mallorca, doesn't Brendan? I think it's when they sit down, and especially with Calmac, and he goes, right, let's get an honest opinion about the state of the squad. And you think they go, he's pish, he's pish, he's pish, he's pish, he's a wanker, he talks about you behind your back. Nah, Callum's not going to do that, does he? We feel as a management we can work with him. We can keep Kieran Tierney as fit as long as possible. Over the last few years, he's been unfortunate with some of the injuries he's picked up. He doesn't need to be available for every single game, says Brendan Rodgers, to have a successful season. We need to have a really good squad that we can rotate. That includes him. It's just great to have him back. He's on his way through the gears, and we know that a fully fit Kieran Tierney will be a massive boost to the club. So maybe Celtic are going to spend £3 million and bring a Manchester United reject into the club. Would you spend 3.2 million for a left back that's going to? Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe that is what we need to do. We're talking about if Kieran's not going to play every game and want to keep the tempo high and everything going. Being completely honest, Inamura isn't the answer. Just going on the games that we've seen him, I mean, he's a good understudy, but he's 2 or 3 years. If we want to have a successful season, and Brendan Rodgers will be talking about success as invincible style. We started last season. Statistically, the first quarter of the season last season, statistically we were better than the invincible season. Now that fell away. We've all seen what happened during the season. It fell away. We started dropping points and stuff, and it was never going to be an invincible season. So we quickly forgotten about that. But Brendan Rodgers will want to set records again, and it's going to be interesting to see whether we go down the road of is Balwishka en route. According to some media sources, yes, he is. But until we get verification from people that he's booked his medical and that flights have left, it's just another one that's just an ongoing name. I'm starting to think that the Balwishka one's going to be the next Fitzgarden one. It's just going to go on and on and on. Everton striker wants 100. That's never happening. We're never going for it, and it's just speculation. It's at silly season time. It is at silly season time. We're getting linked with more and more players, and let's face it, we're not bringing in a striker. I think when we spend 1.5 million on Shin Yamada, I think that's it. I think that's your lot. And people will say, what happened to the Brøndby type strikers? What happened to bringing in someone that's got a bit of a European experience? Well, we've done okay with what we've had before, especially the Asian market. So we'll wait and see. At least we know what we're getting with Tierney and older players who are injury prone. Yeah, they're going to be out for half a season. But still, it is very early. But as if Celtic don't sign decent players, do you think Brendan Rodgers will leave? Says Stevie. I'm unsure. We can only go on what Brendan Rodgers says, right? Let's not speculate, because we can only go on what Brendan Rodgers has said. Now, when we look back at the end of last season, and he was talking about the situation with Greg Taylor, right? He was speaking about the situation with Greg Taylor for a few months, and then it got to the one point in the season towards, it was about 5 games to go, or maybe a bit more than that, and Brendan Rodgers said, look, I'm more than experienced enough to know that when it gets to this point of the season, if a player hasn't signed, he's going to leave the club. I'm long enough in the tooth to know that. Brendan Rodgers was then asked about his own contract situation, and Brendan Rodgers said, I'm sure it'll be an easy conversation to have in the summer. Well, if you look at the summer as being the down season, when they're not playing football, that's come and gone. If he's saying this summer, as in the Scottish summer, well, we're in the midst of that, aren't we? We're in the midst of the Scottish summer. I think once it gets closer to the start of the season, and if Brendan Rodgers has not signed the new contract, speculation will grow. I still say give him till the October international break, because Celtic like making announcements during that break. They've made they've given players contract extensions during the September and October international breaks. That's when they've generally announced over the last couple of years contract extensions. It could be that they're waiting until then. Do you know, it's like let's focus on what we're doing, day-to-day stuff. It's maybe agreed in principle, or it's maybe not agreed in principle, and wait till that time, and then we can start panicking. And if it's not a case of start panicking, I did put up a picture in the community tab yesterday of Brendan Rodgers and Ange Postecoglou and a bygone time when they didn't manage Celtic, either of them. And it was and then I put the journey both these men went on. Brendan Rodgers was obviously the Liverpool manager at the time. I've no idea who Ange was managing, because it looks like he's got a KFC jacket on, to be fair. But both of them were a lot younger. Definitely a lot younger. Now, Brendan Rodgers, we all know what he happened to end up at Celtic after Liverpool. And Ange Postecoglou. When you look at the journey, and I think that this is what we need to start looking at now. When we look at the journey that these managers have went on to get to Celtic, you know, they've had a little bit of experience. It does make you wonder if the reason that we aren't spending big this summer is we're banking the cash, because maybe the men upstairs know. Yeah, maybe they know. Look, I said I'd come for the 3 years. I was taking a year out of football, remember? I mean, Brendan did say he was taking... I think Brendan Rodgers will stay for the 10. I think he'll stay for his... I've maintained right at the beginning when he came back that he would stay for the 3 years. Will he stay for... I would like him to. I'll say that. I would like him to stay for longer than the 3 years, to give the club a little bit of stability. But then, with stability, sometimes doesn't come progress. And that's what you need to think about. He took over a year to get fans back on side. Yeah, he did. He took over a year to get some fans back on side. But I think that he also said, trust the process. And it could be the fact that he's putting in a process, he's putting in place a longer term legacy. You know, it could be that. But then you never know, because other managers come in and they want to change things around and they want to bring in their own team. And it could be the fact that, yeah, we don't know. But let's just enjoy this season. Ange did get the money from the board. That's why he left. They won't pay it for big players and keeping the club up top and win all games. Ange did have a gripe about that, didn't he? I mean, Ange did say to the press, he said, what's the difference in bringing in a player at 1 or 2 million and then selling them for 10 to 15 million? You can bring in a player at 10 million, you can sell them at 30 million. It's all about a matter of perspective. And I think that Ange knows or knew that if you want to have any kind of progress in European context, you have to bring in that little bit better valued player. But then Celtic fans will say, well, we spent the money that we did on younger players and they're not that good. You know, Scottish football brings you down a level to the standard of that. Anyway, we're sitting on 89 votes this morning, with over 550 people being on the live so far. We're sitting on 89 votes. I thought we would get that one up a bit more. Are Celtic fans getting value for money? 19% say yes. Interesting. But I can understand why, yes, we are getting value for money. But I think that I think Celtic fans get to a point. We get success. And we keep on building the squad, and we get that little step forward in the Champions League, you know, and then it's like, right, we've had a good Champions League campaign, and nobody can deny last year was a fantastic campaign. but you want to progress on that. You don't want to regress. You want to progress and you want to go forward. And the only way that you really see us going forward is maintaining a big chunk of the squad, losing 2 or 3 players, but bringing in 4, 5, 6 quality players. And as it stands just now, we've brought in 2 quality players, and that's it. But anyway, Rodgers will have learned from his time at Leicester not to outstay his welcome. And was given the money, 6 million for CCV, 6 million for Jota, 4 million for Kyogo. Didn't wait around to find out. Rodgers should have won the Premiership with Liverpool. Yeah, but Slippy G slipped on his arse and cost him, didn't he? You all remember that game. That was the game that cost him the title. Steven Gerrard slipped him in the middle of the field and getting the ball taken off him. Any manager has a shelf life. But what is the shelf life? Is it the period over the 2 terms that he's had at Celtic? Or is it the 3-year period he's had now? And I think when you look at... You could go against the grain and saying, well, Fergie didn't outlast his shelf life, did he? Fergie, as a manager, knew how to change things about. And I suppose but Fergie would change his backroom staff on a regular basis. You know, the manager stays the same, but there's a lot of other things within the club. Maybe the manager doesn't have to change all the time. Maybe Brendan Rodgers said that last season. Brendan Rodgers said there has to be either 1 or 2 changes. You either need to change the playing staff and get better playing staff and motivate the squad, motivate the atmosphere, invigorate the atmosphere, or you change manager. So, yeah, Fergie adapted. But maybe this is what Brendan Rodgers is doing. Maybe we were seeing a season of Brendan Rodgers adapting. And maybe we're missing the point completely. Jock Stein, 11 years, yeah. And Rodgers did way better than Ange in England. Yeah, this is true. But people will say, but Ange won a European Cup. Ange came 17th. Rodgers won the FA Cup and top 5 finishes. Yeah, Rodgers is the chosen one, and like I say, I don't want him to. I don't think he's not going to walk out the door this season, but I don't want him to leave at the end of this season, because I think as a project and as a manager, I think Brendan Rodgers is evolving, and this could be a season of Brendan Rodgers evolving rather than him being static as a manager and being set in his ways on certain things. Maybe it is, you know. You can only go on what he said and what he said last season. So that is that. Anyway, we're at over 100 votes now. Are Celtic fans getting value for money? Taking everything into consideration. Anyway, so let me see. There's not much Celtic news. Sin Yamada, Celtic bound. What's today's date? The 13th. He's playing a game on the 15th, which is Monday, and then he's on his way. Could Celtic renew interest in Evan Ferguson? Seriously not. Speculation. I mean, are we really going to bring in Shin Yamada and Evan Ferguson? I can't see that. And if we do, it all points to a change of formation. I mean, you've got all these strikers. It points to a change of formation from Rodgers. It's now at the time where you're like, you want pre-season to just hurry up and finish, so that we can start getting down to business and seeing what Brendan Rodgers is really going to do. Evan Ferguson was one valued at 100 million. We get linked with anyone Irish. Yeah, we do. Anyone Irish and anyone Portuguese, they're linked with Celtic. And it doesn't put the fans at ease. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this morning. Just a quick half an hour. Any transfer news moving on? Nah, there's just the same old. Brendan Rodgers has hinted that there may be some activity in the transfer market regarding left back, because Kieran Tierney will not be relied on all summer. Tell you, Baz, come Christmas we'll be discussing who our next manager will be, says Square Sausage Mac. I think we might do, mate. I think we might do. But as for now, let's just enjoy the summer. Let's enjoy the Scottish weather that you're having just now, and in the UK. It's abnormal for this time of year, but it is fantastic to say the least. Brendan Rodgers reveals Kieran Tierney's financial sacrifice. The PR machine was right out with Celtic. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, Celtic fans all around the world.